The history of ancient Greece is filled with heroes who encountered great challenges and took part in remarkable adventures. Many heroes had tragic ends, but others managed to return triumphantly and keep going with their lives. Admetus was one of those fortunate heroes who returned home to reign over Thessaly. He was one of the Argonauts who set out in search of the Golden Fleece, and, due to an unusual feat, he managed to marry the beautiful princess Alcestis. The couple lived happily, and the royal house of Thessaly prospered along with their kingdom. Admetus, Alcestis, and their offspring were loved by their people, and that happiness seemed to never end. However, one day, Admetus was taken by a sudden malaise. He felt the dreadful touch of Thanatos, the god of death. The king lost his strength and fainted in the arms of his beloved Alcestis. During the night, while the king was attempting to recover from this malaise, Admetus received an unexpected visit. They were the ladies of destiny, who had appeared in his room with dismaying news. The Moirai were responsible for concatenating the destiny of all beings, and they revealed that the king had little time left to live, and that death was already around the corner. Admetus fell on the ground in despair and grabbed the goddess's garments, begging for his life. He said he was still very young and feared for the fate of his family. The Moirai remained unfazed. The king's life was literally hanging by a thread, but Admetus had a last resort. In the past, the king had welcomed the god Apollo into his palace when he disagreed with Zeus, and so the luminous god owed a debt of gratitude to Admetus. Apollo interceded for the king, and the Moirai opened an exception. They said that the king could remain alive so long as someone, free willingly, surrendered his life in the king's place. The king felt relieved because many had told him they were willing to give their own lives for him. But when he went to his subjects to look for a volunteer, he found none. Then he turned to those he thought would never abandon him. The king asked if any of his old parents would sacrifice for his son, but they were still very attached to the time they had left. The dismayed king started crying and could hardly believe his end was coming. It was then that Alcestis, his wife, said she would sacrifice herself in his place. In the name of her love for her husband, the young woman said she would give up on her life provided the king swore that, after her departure, he would protect the rights of her children from an evil stepmother. Embarrassed, the king accepted the sacrifice of her love for the good of their offspring and his kingdom. And the evils that afflicted Admetus moved onto the brave queen. Alcestis, already sick, was bedridden waiting for the inevitable visit paid by Thanatos. While Admetus was crying over his wife's imminent departure, a commotion started in the city. The mighty Hercules had arrived, the great hero who was still performing his 12 outstanding labors. But he had already achieved notoriety for defeating frightful monsters and villains. The son of Zeus asked to be lodged in Admetus' palace, and he welcomed him with all the honor that a son of Zeus deserved. Hercules had a delicious feast and was served with the finest regional wines. Then, the hero felt the palace's funeral atmosphere and noticed the sadness of Admetus and his servants. Hercules asked the reason why, and Admetus explained the whole situation. The hero was moved by the king's account, and he felt deeply honored to be so solemnly received even in such a painful moment. This showed that the king appreciated the duty of hospitality imposed by Zeus. The son of the supreme god assured Admetus that he would not allow the god of death to take his wife's spirit, so he stood beside Alcestis' bed like a watchdog. The night arrived, and with it came the beautiful but ominous Thanatos. The dark god was surprised by the hero's presence and demanded Hercules to step away, because Charon was waiting for Alcestis' arrival to cross the world of the dead. But Hercules said that Thanatos could only touch Alcestis if he managed to defeat him. This is a laughable threat to the god of death. And the two began to fight. The hero confronted death itself, something unfeasible for a common mortal being. But the hero was a demigod, and the strength of Zeus's blood flowed stronger in him than any of his human descendants. Thanatos succumbed to the power of the son of Zeus, and, under the threat of the demigod, the god saw no alternative but to escape. With Thanatos fleeing, the health of the brave Queen Alcestis was restored. Thanks to Hercules, the love of the couple prevailed over death.